I'm Sally Malville, and you're listening to the Knitting Boutique Saturday Morning Breakfast Club. So let's all knit what we wear and wear what we knit.
For more information about the yarn, books, patterns, or industry designers discussed on our Saturday Morning Breakfast Club podcast, visit our website at knittingboutique.com or give us a call at country code and area code 1-410-553-0433. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Breakfast Club podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Joyce.
And you're listening to episode 78 of our podcast. On today's show, we have just returned from one of our knitting boutique retreats. We've just returned from the Brampton Inn bed and breakfast on Maryland's Eastern Shore, right outside Chestertown. We had an amazing weekend.
80 degrees, wonderful sun, beautiful bulbs, beautiful trees in bloom, lovely property.
Yeah, and normally we do, our guests will arrive on Friday, and then we'll do a trunk show with an independent dyer. It's Blue Heron yarn, which we'll have more about a little bit later on in our episode. But I think before that, we should talk about the owners of this beautiful property. So I am joined by Danielle and Lucas here of the Brampton Inn. So I'd like to start at the beginning. Just how in the world did you decide to start this wonderful, wonderful facility?
My husband, Michael, and I were living between two continents. We had been in Europe in 1985, and then we moved back to the States, to San Francisco, and then we were trying to decide where we were going to settle. And somehow it made sense to be somewhere in the middle so that it was easier to travel to. And we came upon Chestertown by chance, really. My in-laws at the time were living in Potomac, and we would spend quite some time in Bethany. So this was on our way, and one day we just took this turn.
Well, and when you say took this turn, it was a pretty major turn.
It was indeed.
And so, it's really hard not to fall in love with the city of Chestertown.
It absolutely is. But when we first came, we thought, we were both raised in cities, or close to cities. And we thought, a farm would be great. Well, pretty quickly we realized that's not a good idea.
It was smart.
Yeah. Then we came upon another place in the area that was for sale. It was a B&B. And we thought, that's something that we could do. And so we started looking for old houses. And Michael is actually the one who found this one. And we looked at it, decided that this was a good idea, and went for it, having never stayed at a B&B before.
Never stayed at one?
No, never stayed at one before. We bought a big old house, and that was it.
What year are we talking about again?
We are talking 1987, and Lucas was high school age, so he joined us here to go to high school in King County.
And Lucas is your son?
He's my stepson. Sophie at the time was a year and a half. So, Luke, you were 15?
I was 15, yeah.
Right. And
I was the original lawnmower.
Yes. And you probably did a great job.
We had some poor equipment in the beginning, I'll say that.
We had a brand new tractor.
Yeah, which I wasn't allowed to use on the central grounds.
Yeah, that's
right. We had to use Grandpa Dan's old lawnmower, which would stall if the grass was more than an inch tall.
So you weren't allowed to use the new one?
No, I was allowed eventually to drive the tractor, but the center of the teardrops, they insisted be mowed by hand.
Well, that was teaching you at that age.
Sure.
Right?
Whatever you want to tell yourself is fine by me.
But you remember Grandpa Dan's.
A lawnmower. Yes, I do. It was awesome.
Okay, so we're back in the 80s. Lucas is 15.
Correct.
Sophie is...
A year and a half.
And you and your husband, Michael...
Yes.
...stumble upon this beautiful property. And I'm saying beautiful, but you'd have to tell me, what did it look like back then?
It was quite a bit different. It was a beautiful old house, and Michael really fell in love with the bones of this place because it is so solid. Everything about it, pretty much everything is original. The only addition over the years were the bathrooms and
the radiators.
The radiators, yeah, the heating system. Mm-hmm. And they moved a few things around, but some of the main things that were missing, the porch had been cut down, and the belvedere on top of the house was missing. The south wing was missing, and this is something that Michael restored over the years.
Yeah, I was going to say those are pretty major missing items.
They were.
They had been harvested back for firewood.
Really?
During the Great Depression.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And during the Depression, a family lived here who didn't own it. They were tenant farmers. And they didn't live in the front portion of the building. They only lived in the back. And they were storing meat in here, in this very room.
Oh, right. And so when Danielle says this very room, we're actually sitting in this beautiful parlor, library.
Library parlor. And originally, when we came, the dining room was the east parlor. This is what we call the west parlor.
And when you and Michael looked at this back in the 80s, did you understand that this was going to be your life's work?
No, I don't think we knew what we were doing, frankly.
Let's rephrase that. Let's say that you did know what you were doing, you just didn't know what you were getting yourself into.
That's correct. Yes, that's
you
correct.
were competent individuals,
Right,
but
right,
it sort
right.
of underestimated the
Yeah.
extent that this
No.
would be an impact on your life.
That is correct.
And Lucas, at 15, when your parents decide, oh, this is what we're going to do, I'm sure you didn't have any kind of inclination of what this meant for you either.
No, it was for me personally. It was a choice between living with my biological father and my biological mother, and I felt as a male it was important for me to have a good connection with my father. I came from in a city, in an inner city, and so this was pretty drastically different. There's a whole skill set that comes with living in the country that you just simply don't have contact with when you live in the cities.
Sure.
So these things, it's funny, later in life, I had some other family that lived out in the country, and they would always be surprised that I knew what I was doing.
Well, and I think we need to talk about Michael, right? Because we've, introduced him. Michael passed,
Yes, in November.
In November, so I'm so sorry. And I have to say, when, I look at this facility and I look at both of you together, I truly believe that there's a path that we all have. And, back in the 1980s, this was the path for your family. And, I think when you stand back and look at the success, it's just unbelievable.
It was, I don't want to speak for Danielle too much here, but, there was a lot of ups and downs to this place. Both business-wise and personally. And it's, the thing that always strikes me about this place is that it really was built, what I like to say is it was built for love, from love. And I think that's, I think my father would probably agree with that.
Well, when you walk in the door, and we do these retreats all around the country, right? When you walk in the door that this is a special place. And every time I've walked in the door, this is my maybe third or fourth visit. Every time you walk in the door. And I think we probably should describe some of the rooms, because they're not just ordinary rooms. Each room has a working fireplace.
Yes.
You guys describe it for our listeners.
The thing that's the most impressive for me is that for a house of this time period, the rooms are exceptionally large.
Right.
The architecture was designed to look a little bit like a wedding cake in its proportions. It still has the high, tall windows with many of the panes of glass being original, in that you can see them running over time, which I think gives a sort of class to this place, which is a little original.
And the fine wood, the windows are walnut, the doors are walnut, the baseboards are walnut.
The floors are all original.
All original. We have the original plaster on the walls. We have the original roof on this place. This is 130-year-old or more roof, or 150-year-old roof. It's been fixed, but it's still here. This is it. After it was finished in 1860, it stayed in the same family until 1886, at which point they lost it. At auction, and the lawyer who bought it owned it for 50 years but never lived here. So it was a tenant farm for all this time, and nobody did anything to it. And the Belvedere was missing, and the south wing, the chimney had collapsed. It was a kitchen wing, and so a lot of things were falling apart by that point. And because it was the height of the Depression, the gentleman, a doctor, bought it and turned this into an inpatient place.
Wow.
So he took all the things off that weren't important and just restored it to the porch was cut off all the way to just 3 bays instead all the way around. At the time, it was the finest country home that they built in Kent County. Mm-hmm. This one has, the first floor has 12-foot ceilings, the second floor 11-foot ceilings, and even the third floor has 9-foot ceilings, which is very unusual. Normally, they were 6 feet or, max, because they just didn't. It wasn't done in those days. Mm-hmm. And it's usually the kids that lived up there or the servants. And 20 years ago, Michael walked in here and it was always, honey, I have to show you something. And sure enough, the ceiling, there was a leak and the ceiling looked weird. And so he ripped it open and nearly had a coronary.
Was he intrigued by all of this, do you think?
He was. It was almost a love-hate relationship to this place.
Sure.
He couldn't keep his hands off it. He needed to fix stuff. And anytime we went anywhere, all he could always do is point out all the old houses.
Absolutely. He brought this place back completely from the dead, in a sense.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's...
When I talk about the rooms, too, I think about when you gave me the tour of the full facility, and you've got the wood-burning fireplaces, that has to be a rarity that you allow functioning wood-burning fireplaces in every room, and I have taken advantage of that on my days here, just so you know.
Good.
It's just beautiful, and I guess you have complete trust in us that we're not going to, burn the place down.
Well, there is something to the fact that this place was built with fireplaces that were used every day in the winter to heat the place. And I figure if in the first 100 years of the life of this house, they didn't burn the house down, they must have done an okay job with safety stuff with the main house.
We do limit, they're only used from November to the end of March. Yeah. We were pretty strict about that.
So every room has a fireplace. All but 2 have wood-burning fireplaces.
Yes. And then there's each parlor has a wood-burning fireplace, and we have a fire pit outside. I mean, we're fire proficient. This is fun.
So I have my last question for both of you, and it's, if you could answer it separately. Lucas, I'll start with you. Your favorite thing about Brampton?
I feel like it is an island oasis away from the world. There's very few places where you feel like you can sort of step out of time. And I've experienced that a couple of different places in my life, but this place tends to hold that the best. I guess the food, the people, and the island oasis. And the people here are pretty amazing.
I so agree.
We work with a lot of really, really talented people, but they're all genuinely good people. Mm-hmm. And that's, in my life, has been the exception, not the rule.
That's right. That's a rarity. And they're committed to the success of the inn.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They're just really good people.
Yeah. Good. Danielle?
I would say our guests, because we've had people that have been coming for 30 years. They come a couple of times a year. Really good friendships that have been made. The staff and it's in this day and age with high tech and everything. This seems something that is just constant and not fickle. It's just solid. It's a grounding type of enterprise to me, and it has provided the family with a place to come back to. It just has it holds many memories for us, both from with our guests and with our family and Michael.
And Michael. I mean, I think he said the bones of this place. What was his comment about the?
He loved the bones of this place. He really did.
He was right.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you allowing us into your home and the stories that you've shared. And maybe because we, come here for our retreat for the weekend, maybe we do become part of your family.
Of course you do.
Just for a little amount of time. Lucas and Danielle, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and thank you for sharing your stories.
Thank you for bringing your group. They were just amazing ladies.
They were great, aren't they?
Yeah.
We'll see you next month.
See you next month.
So I'm joined by Blue Heron Yarn. Damien, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. We were just, you were just at one of our retreats showing your beautiful yarn. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk about our upcoming Maryland Independent Dyers Festival. You're going to be there as well, right?
That's right. Yep. Right around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've got lots of people that come into Maryland for Maryland Sheep and Wool. And so we've added this new Independent Dyer Festival. We're hoping that people will stop by on their way from the airport. And, we get the chance to showcase our beautiful Maryland yarns, including your yarn. If you can describe kind of the niche that Blue Heron offers, because your yarn is, I think, pretty different than other yarns that you see out there.
Sure. Yep, absolutely. I think what sets us apart, a couple things. We have, I think, great colors. People love our colorways. We have really generous yardage and really nice quality. So those are probably the three things that distinguish us from some other companies. And with, I was just thinking about that because weaving is sort of gaining in popularity, not that knitting is going anywhere, but weavers are really starting to familiarize themselves with our yarns as well. But those are the three things, I think: the yardage, the colorways, and our yarn quality.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you can go just a little bit deeper when you're talking about yardage, I think you're really known for kind of one skein wonders, right?
That's right. Yeah. My mother designs many of our patterns, and she designs them with the idea that you can do a project with one skein, and that's a really nice concept. So that's what she tries to do. I think 99% of our patterns that she has designed use one skein of yarn, which is a great thing.
It is great because then you're not worrying about dye lots. You're not worrying about, will I have enough? I mean, you're really talking about between 500, 700, really 1,000 yards in one skein, right?
Exactly. Right. And, I think people look at it at first and they think, $40 for a skein of yarn is high. But once you realize the yardage that you have, it's really not.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the other thing that, if you could share, we're not talking about normal wool blends that, you can get pretty regularly, right?
We do some wool, but really our niche is the rayons and the cottons, and completely different dye process. And I really enjoy that. I don't think you can get the brilliancy, the vibrancy of the colorways with the wool like you can with the rayons, especially the rayons and the cottons. So that's our specialty as well.
And I think if I remember correctly, just from, the sales that we have, the rayon metallic is really the most popular, right?
Yeah, it really is. And it just keeps going. And I'm always amazed that it has not dwindled at all in popularity. It's, the majority of what we sell is the rayon metallic. That's our signature yarn. And it's really, I think it's got everything going for it. It's not too Las Vegas-y glitzy. It's very elegant, nice hand, easy to work with, and so people just continue to love it and love that yarn.
And for those who haven't seen it, can you describe it?
Sure. Yeah. It's we've got three different bases of metallic. We've got a gold, we've got a copper, and we've got a silver, and we have, for the most part, designated the colorway that goes over that metallic base. We do the blues, the blacks over the silver and the grays. We do the really deep jewel tones and rich browns over the copper, and then everything else we do over the gold. So quite a lot of variety there, and it's interesting to see that. So it's a very, very soft yarn, and it's definitely worth. I think people recognize that right away as our signature yarn.
Yeah, I would agree. And is it 100% rayon?
It is. Yep. And everything's milled here in this country too, which is another nice thing. Except for we have one silk and merino that's milled in Canada, but everything else is milled here.
I think that's why, I think we really wanted to start this Independent Dyer Festival. We really wanted the opportunity for, the opportunity to be able to showcase our wares to, those who are coming into Maryland. Can you talk a little bit about the festival and your thoughts?
Sure. Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, it's obviously the first year, so we don't know what it's going to be like, but I just think it's a great opportunity. I've attended Sheep and Wool a couple of times, and it is an amazing experience, but it's also, pretty crazy. So I think this will, allow people to sort of move at their own pace and really be able to see the products. And, it's like you said, it's really convenient to the airport. So people flying in can get off the plane and they're there. So, that's it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think you characterized it great. Like you said, we all love sheep and wool, but it can be intense. And, I think at this point we've got, up to 10 vendors, but the list is still growing. And, as you said, it's our first year, which means it's our building year. But so far, we've got amazing response from vendors as well as, attendees. And so we're hoping to grow every year. And, I just appreciate you being on the ground floor with us as we grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Damien, it's been wonderful talking to you. It's always wonderful talking to you. And here's to a great Maryland Independent Dyers Festival.
Yes, and I'll see you shortly. Okay.
Okay, bye-bye. So make sure if you're in Maryland that you stop by. We know, again, Sheep and Wool is an incredibly popular festival. We are 5 minutes from the airport. So when you're flying in, headed to Sheep and Wool, just before you go there, stop at our festival. And then you can keep going right on to Sheep and Wool. For a preview for our next show, while we're on the retreat season, we are going to go to our retreat at Aspen's Wye River Conference Center, again on Maryland's Eastern Shore.
And you'll get to hear from Andrea Wong, who is just really special. And she's done it so well, and she's doing color work, and it's just going to be quite an adventure.
So that will be on our next show. It's been a great show, Joyce.
Thanks, Diana.
For more information about the yarn, books, patterns, or industry designers discussed on our Saturday Morning Breakfast Club podcast, visit our website at knittingboutique.com or give us a call at country code and area code 1-410-553-0433.